Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome back to our watch club for Loki Season 2. It's not about when, where, or why. It's about who. I can rewrite the story. Welcome back to Watch Club. My name is Nate, and this is our Watch Club for Loki Season 2, Episode 5, the penultimate episode titled Science/Fiction. Directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. If you're joining us for the first time, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, kind of like a book club, but way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this series and the MCU in general, so if you haven't watched this week's episode yet, be sure to do so, and then come right back in a snap. Now, before we all time slip back into jail or onto a jet ski, let me introduce you to the TVA personnel joining me today. First up, he knows a little something about joint probability. He's Justin, the jet ski loving Lawrence.
Hello, hello.
Dude, I know we talked about jet skis last time. Any other vehicles that you've been on? Like, have you been on an ATV?
No, I have not been on an ATV. I don't really consider myself the adventurous type when it comes to the vehicles realm.
Ya.
I'm a little more comfortable in a car. I wouldn't find myself on a motorcycle or anything like that. So
there you go.
It's just the way I live.
I crashed off of an ATV once. It was the last time I was ever on one.
I was
younger.
Time.
Yeah, I was younger, and then I think I don't know, I hit something or I hit the brakes or something, and I went flying off of it. I did one of those things where, like, you know, when like you have to you lose your breath, like the wind gets knocked out of you.
Yep.
It was crazy. I felt like I was, time slipping. But joining us from yet another branch timeline, last but also first at the same time. She's the astrobiological assimilation of all things atomic. She's Alyssa, the bioluminescent Ouroboros-loving Balistreri.
Oh my goodness. Bioluminescent, like in which way? Like automato way or like which kind of way?
Shiny. Absolutely.
Shiny. Amazing. I can get behind that.
Yeah. Welcome back to the podcast. You've been on a couple of watch clubs before, but for those who haven't had the pleasure of hearing you on here before, who are you? And also, what are your high-level thoughts on Loki Season 2 so far?
Yeah. I mean, who am I after this episode? I'm not sure I can confidently say who I am.
We're so many things.
At the same time, my name is Alyssa. I am a resident fan of Marvel and all things Geekcentric, apparently. I have a Twitch stream where I open Pokemon cards and play video games and have a great old time. And I am one of the previous video dames where we talk about, gaming and pop culture and all that good stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. And your thoughts on Loki Season 2 so far?
My thoughts are all over the place, as most of the characters in this episode were. I think, honestly, that this show has been incredible. It has kind of curved my expectations. The original show was one of my favorite Marvel series, and this one I have a feeling is going to reach a quick second. I am a huge fan of Marvel and Loki in general. The God of Mischief is tattooed on my body, so I do love him quite a lot.
Is that the only Marvel character, or do you have other?
I have Loki and Thor's helmets on my arm.
That's sick.
Yeah, so
That's
I'm
sick.
a bit of a fan. One of my favorite things about this series is how it has a very distinct vibe. It's kind of like future, but in a retro kind of way, and it's really awesome seeing how they showcase how the TVA is like somewhere in time, but also nowhere at the same time. They've got technology, but it's archaic, and like the set design is new, but also old. So
absolutely,
I'm just a huge fan of how it's kind of panning out.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things since we did our review for the first 4 episodes of Season 2 into our recap from last week. We've really been talking about, I think the biggest highlight of this season has been the look of the show, and the production value alone has just sort of, I think, set it just sort of really sort of brought what was great from the first season and just cemented in our minds that, like, from a production value standpoint, this might be one of the best of the Disney Plus live action Marvel series.
Yeah, well, this season definitely is doubling down on that by building more 360 style sets that the camera can actually move in. They did that in the first season, but I think they really are leaning into this idea of one takes and showcasing the sets. You know, there's a beautiful scene just moments after the beginning of this episode where we see Loki just walking through the TVA, and it really does highlight the styles of the builds of the sets being so detailed, and you know, having a timeless feel, as you pointed out, Alyssa, in a time traveling way that they don't exist in time. There's just a lot of layers to it of how, again, it's technology, but it's got its own vibe of a different period of time that's not like super high finish glossiness that we've seen in the MCU, especially with Stark's tech. Like, it's just super, you know, thin glass sort of design. So it's interesting to see how this side of the world of the MCU has very much defined itself based on its vibe and its visual look.
Yeah, Justin, you know, you interviewed Christine Wada, the costume designer for season 1 and now season 2. And I think one of my favorite things she mentioned was Michael Waldron, who we've also interviewed on the podcast before, back when Multiverse of Madness was coming out, that his sort of main sort of two things that he was sort of basing it all around was Mad Men and Blade Runner 2049. And I'm like, that is the coolest mashup ever. So I really, yeah, the production design has been fantastic. But like the people that make the show, the actors in the show are also equally as important to the making of it and what we love about it. And you know, I'm stoked to get into this penultimate episode, but we also do want to remind you listening that we here at Geekcentric are just through the moon that the WGA has successfully gotten the contract that they bargained for, and we feel like we're so close. I really hope that the SAG-AFTRA will reach an agreement with the studios. You know, hopefully. Maybe by the time you're listening to this, or at least a few days away from it, we're really hoping so at the time of this recording, and just so that they can get the contract that reflects the ongoing changes of today's industry. Because without these actors, we wouldn't get incredible characters like Loki and like the ones that we love in this very show. So to support the actors of the things we love, you can do so by checking out the link in our description. But let's get into it. Episode 5, the penultimate episode, science/fiction. Special thanks to Jenna Anderson from comicbook.com for the assistance with this week's episode summary, which I've made a few modifications to better serve our breakdown. So after a very creepy and ominous Marvel fanfare opening, Loki wakes up after the temporal loom explosion, discovering that everyone else has disappeared. He walks through the empty TVA headquarters as a loudspeaker repeats, TVA code 1229 failsafe mode has been initiated. Thank you for your service. He begins time slipping again, which he's not happy about. And then he briefly finds a man reading the TVA manual. He says, hello? But he time slips before he can approach him. And later, he realizes that the man is actually a version of him from slightly forward in the future. The TVA begins to disintegrate into strings of time as the organization's failsafe mode is initiated, and we slowly zoom in on a disintegrating monitor with a crudely animated Miss Minute saying, thank you for your service. Or she doesn't actually say it, but I imagine that's what she would sound like. So let's get into this. You know, I want to know, what does this mean? Is the TVA meant to reset like this? What is the failsafe mode? Justin, do you have any ideas?
I was under the impression, as soon as we snapped back, that anyone that the TVA, or He Who Remains, ripped from a timeline and inserted into this organization was then pushed back to their timelines as part of, I think, a sort of breakdown or deconstruction of the TVA as we see in these moments. I think that the first part of the failsafe is to push all the people back to their timelines and then basically just spaghettify into the ether, and it just no longer exists. And yeah, I think that's kind of what we're dealing with here when we see it, because it makes sense that Loki would be here and no one else would be. He's not from this timeline. He was never intended to be there.
Right.
So everyone else who was intended was pushed back out, and he's left there on his own. So there was a sense to that of as to why I feel like he was there.
So are the people, but like, so because we're thinking of like, I'm looking at this as sort of a reset point in the grand loop that we've been talking about in these past weeks, and in the recap, you know, of sort of, this is the sort of the finite point. It always will go back at this point. But in my mind, I was thinking of it as a reset. Are you thinking that these people? It's where we get into the weeds or the time strings of things. But are you thinking that these people are gone? Like at that point in time, they are gone. It's not that they went back. They're gone, and now Loki is going back to the moment in time where they were discovered. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, are we starting a new timeline in the sense of how the TVA begins because of this point of the loom? That could very well be it. But just based on what we're talking about right now, like, I do feel like part of the reset is to eliminate the people and just maybe push them back to their timelines, and then the reason why Loki's there himself by himself, right? I think that gives a justification. But to your point, if they wanted to go, I guess, bigger with it, then yeah, maybe that's the humdinger, if you will, where it's like, oh, wait a minute, they all disappeared because now he's going to start the TVA because this is the event that creates a new timeline. I guess it could go either way, but I don't know. It just seems like we're getting to a point where Loki is discovering a new side of who he is.
And that's
through this.
I think that's the best part about this episode, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this has happened thousands of times before. You know, we talk about the set design, we talk about the world building. I also want to just shout out just the visuals, the visual effects team of this show, because the spaghettification it's you know, it's funny how much it does remind me of the dusting of the snap, but it is kind of, again, just like how we've been talking about, it's its own vibe, it's its own terrifying thing. And I love how the glass on the monitor breaks first, and then the shards of glass become little strips of time. It's just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's totally gorgeous. I think that the visuals is beautiful and also horrible. So it's just this, like, there's this weird like, I guess, dichotomy in every single event that happens in this series. As for the failsafe, I think that Kang is the Kang of Kanks for a reason. He Who Remains is the head honcho because he did not play around. He was not getting to that position that he was in by not covering all of his bases. So I think he honestly prepped for anything. Wow. The TVA was meant to keep the timeline in order. And I mean, if it stays in a single strand, then they're doing their job. But he is who he is. So he planned the paving of the way for Loki and Sylvie to take him out for a reason. He knew that this is a possibility, that the timelines could branch and that the Kangs could, you know, return. So having this failsafe to send the people back to their original timelines, I think that would be, you know, a consequence of his choices and his actions. And somehow things still go to his own plan when he's not around.
Well, I mean, yeah, because you know, he works with Miss Minutes so closely, and obviously her being on the screen saying thank you for your service. It's like, who is that for? What would that really be? I think it's just a nod to us to let us know, like, yes, this very much is part of that moment. I also do love how this sequence subtly hints all the way to the very end of the episode of Loki having a greater control over his time slipping ability, because he only slipped a little bit until he realized that he was absolutely alone, and then I think that's what caused him to slip further away, but also kind of in the same sense closer to the ones that he needs and loves. I think it's just very poetic. It's such a great way to kick off the episode, and I certainly, you know, got like that first kick of him just going hello, and then you realize it's him. Like, that was just it was awesome.
Yeah,
So cool.
and you have to think too, based on the way this episode unravels, and it's about who, why did he time slip there? He was probably thinking about like someone like Casey, and seeing where Casey was, because Casey, that's where he ran into Casey before.
Right.
So that's probably why he inevitably time slipped there originally, right?
Right.
To go there.
He sees that room, and that's
he just saw. He thought about
Yeah.
it, and then he goes there, comes back, and then he thinks, okay, I'm going to go upstairs, right? And he
Yeah.
goes upstairs, and because you never know, you don't know what's going on when you're time slipping. You don't know what period is what, right? So
Yeah.
that discovery that he gets there, and it's him. So, but yeah, I think it's a very interesting theory to say that, you know, He Who Remains sort of planned this all out, and in a lot of ways, because I'm always under the impression that none of this is planned by him. There's sort of reason why he pushed for Sylvie and Loki to eliminate him and that they could run it is he just wanted to see pure chaos, right? Like there's been such a long period of time of, you know, order and structure, and I think he sort of snapped in a certain way, and then pushes them to do what you can, because there's that moment in that finale where he's like, I've now crossed the point where I don't know what's going to happen next, right? Like,
Right.
It's a very important moment where he starts to recognize this ain't me. This is all just fact. So that's cool.
Interesting. I mean, I also do want to, just because I'm a huge fan of what Natalie Holt's been doing, and the Marvel fanfare, the opening was so
Haunting,
scary. The choir sound, it reminded me a lot of the music composed by Anna Waronker and Craig Wedren, who do the music for Yellow Jackets. It is like, Alyssa, you would not be able to
No.
ever
I've been
watch
told.
Yellow Jackets. But just on the music alone, like literally, if you watch that show and put your headphones on, the sounds that come out of that score are just insane. It's just, but even this was just some of the most like uneasy feeling going into this episode, and I think that was so purposeful and so well done. So let's keep going here. We then cut to see Casey in a jail cell where he and two men try to orchestrate, or they do orchestrate, a prison break. The prison is in a branch timeline at Alcatraz in 1962 San Francisco. Loki time slips in and finds Casey, but he doesn't recognize him, and he goes by the name Frank. They begin to escape in a boat, and Loki time slips away. He continues to time slip to McDonald's back in Broxton, then just outside of Piranha Power Sports, and then into the TVA's Time Theater number 25. We then see Hunter B-15 in a branch timeline in a hospital in 2012 New York, tending to a girl who needs a cast on her arm. Loki time slips in and out of the scene quickly, freaking her out immensely. And she reacts probably how I'd react to. And then finally, Mobius, aka Dawn, is in a branch timeline where he is a jet ski operator in 2012 Cleveland, Ohio. We see him in slow motion as he demonstrates the joy of a jet ski. Unfortunately, the customer is only interested in dirt bikes and donuts. Loki time slips in and enters the store to talk to Mobius as Dawn, but he doesn't recognize him. Dawn's coworker distracts him by telling him his son is yet again calling, and when he looks back, Loki has already time slipped away. So let's stop there, and let's talk about these branched timelines, these characters, and where they've all ended up, or maybe, you know, where they always should have been. Justin, why don't you chime in here and let us know kind of some of your thoughts on some of these different places that we've found our beloved characters.
Well, I think that's sort of the point of this whole sequence, is for us to understand that where they did come from the timeline, and their background and who they are, and you know, the fact that they had families and lives, very much what they had been talking about. This episode very much serves to be a sort of gratification to those characters and to knowing who they were, outside of that, because they've been kind of they've been there obviously, but you know, Hunter B-15, Casey, while they're kind of still background, and here it really does hammer home the point of who they are and where they came from, and I think that this is a great way for us to kind of take a peek into it. But obviously, seeing Mobius, Dawn,
Come on.
yeah, it was always there. Everyone knew it. You know, I think that's why at a certain point they stopped hiding it. They knew that this was the obvious thing that they were building towards of him being a jet ski salesman. But I love it. I loved that he, just the way he is Mobius. Do you know what I mean? Like how calm and just cool he is, and he's very collected.
He's Owen Wilson.
Yeah, he's Owen
Oh,
Wilson. Yeah. Let's just say that, I guess. But at the end of the day, that you see those parallels. You see those parallels between his demeanors, and understand how that would work as a great salesman.
Oh yeah, I love that moment that he has at the end of the episode where he's like, "Do you live by any rivers? It's a really great commute if you get a jet ski." And then he walks away and he's like, "There's financing options."
Yeah, the world is in peril, but he's still selling jet skis.
Because he's only he can only do what he knows what he can do, right? Like that's all he knows.
Just
right?
like Mobius.
Exactly. That's what I think is so great. It's like the way Mobius is, and the way he looks at his role in the TVA is very like, I'm complacent with my 9 to 5, and I make money and I do what I do, right? And that
and the
sort
donuts
of feels
are great, and the key lime
and the donuts
pie
are
is great.
Yeah.
exactly. And that is a parallel mirror to who he is, I believe, as Don the salesman. So Don the jet ski salesman.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, their essence like really shows through, and like seeing where they reverted from, and seeing and kind of thinking back to like things that they used to do, like Casey, for example, like hoarding Infinity Stones, even though they have no value. Or like my girlfriend actually pointed this out to me in the last episode once Victor Timely got spaghettified. They were like, "What happened? What happened?" And he, in the background, you can hear him and being like, "It wasn't me. I didn't do it." So like he still feels that he could get in trouble somehow, even though he's like not in prison. He's in this TVA reality. Yeah, I just find it so fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, calling back to that moment though of the drawer with the, like, I think that was when he meets Loki for the first time, and at one point Loki says he'll gut him like a fish.
Yes.
And in this episode, you actually hear him as Frank Morris saying, "If they catch us, they're gonna gut us like fishes," or something like that. So I think that was such a cool moment too, just to focus in on Frank Morris escaping Alcatraz. I think we got the DB Cooper sequence in the first season, and it's just so cool how they managed to sort of show us that like something happened in a branch timeline that's happened on what we would consider our sacred timeline, but it's with these characters. And at first I didn't understand what I was looking at on the bed, but I looked into the these were 3 real life convicts,
paper mache,
and they used paper mache heads. At first I thought that it was like a frozen head, because there was like water on the bars or something. But no, it was very much a paper mache head. But Frank Morris, Clarence Anglin, and his brother John Anglin, they use those paper mache heads to trick the guards. And I just love how they were able to take the real world history and incorporate it, especially due to the fact that apparently Frank and his 2 buddies were never found, which is interesting, right? And especially if Frank was never found, it's like, because Loki found him.
But the same with DB, right? Like the same, right? They never, no one ever found him. So it's these people that are elusive to the sacred timeline that have some sort of larger importance. But it's a really great call out, Alyssa. Like I didn't even think about that. Like the fact that Casey has Casey's character is so fearful of getting in trouble and doing things by the book, but then he comes from a past where he was, in prison. He would steal and he was dishonest, and
he probably had to read a lot.
And he had such a creative mind, like to plan an escape from prison, and also like have an idol like OB to create such incredible things.
And then for the fact that in the TVA he's hoarding
so
Infinity Stones. It's like, but it's just that's his way of being deceivious and like stealing and like having that sort of that edge to him, right? He's like, "Ooh, I have all these things," right? Like he's taking away. So I think that's hilarious.
Also, New Rockstars pointed out, and I just thought it was a fun tidbit to include here, Clarence and John are actually played in this episode by the directors, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. And I just thought that's such a cool way, if you're going to try to get into this show, is to just be those characters. I will admit we were all wrong on who Jack was working at the McDonald's. He's not Mobius. He's not Mobius's son or Thor or anything crazy. But I was right. And I mean, it's not that big of a success because, as you said earlier, Justin, everyone called it. But he works at a jet ski shop. I was just pumping my air. I think it was when I first watched the episode, though, I thought he was filming a low-budget commercial for his shop, but then watching it back, he was just passionately demonstrating the joys,
having a good time
of the personal watercraft, which is just even better than I could have ever dreamed for. So, he's unabashedly Owen Wilson, and I love when he says, "Come on." Ready for your Poseidon moment? Jump on this bad boy. And
yeah.
so good. I also want to shout out the cinematographer, whoever's decision it was to match Loki up with the wacky waving inflatable arm guy. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Hunter B-15 in New York of 2012. So this is interesting because whenever we watch, things in the MCU, if it says New York 2012 on the screen, and it's not something that was before the Avengers, not a movie before the first Avengers movie, it's the Battle of New York. So you could almost argue, like, maybe it never happened on this timeline.
Or it hasn't happened yet.
Or it hasn't happened yet, maybe?
Yet. I think the idea is that maybe it hasn't happened yet, but we know that she was a doctor that probably tended to people from the Battle of New York.
From the Battle
right?
of New York, yeah.
Yeah, right? So it's like, I think that might be implicitly implied. But again, to your point, who knows at what point, like, she's removed from the timeline, right? And did it happen? I don't know. That's,
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the specific moment she was removed from the timeline, because I think, I love that for Hunter B-15 in the first season, she's protecting and healing the sacred timeline by pruning variants and branching timelines and different things like that. But in season 2, we get to see where her love of people comes from. And then in her actual life, she's a doctor. She's healing people. I'm wondering, though, to your point, Justin, is when Sylvie shows her in season 1, she shows her something. She messes with her mind, and we see B-15 start to cry outside of the Roxcart store. I'm wondering if that is maybe Hunter B-15, if that is showing her, like, you were a doctor, you helped all these people, and maybe even thinking back to how nebulous Sylvie was, maybe how evil Sylvie was at the time. What if she was showing her all the people that she wasn't there to save or to help through the Battle of New York or something like that, right? Like, I'm wondering if there's something there in the sense that, like, 'cause she was pretty upset.
I was just gonna say, like, maybe she's just showing her, like, the opposite of what she does now. Like,
right.
Her whole purpose is that she removes people from this plane of existence, and she doesn't know that they go to the end of time. She knows that she touches them with the pruning rod, and then they're not there anymore. So seeing yourself as something opposite of what you are can be really emotional, and coming to that realization it definitely changed her perspective on her role at the TVA.
For sure.
Yeah. I think in a lot of ways, again, kind of with how we were looking at, I was saying, with Casey's character in the TVA being very scared and fearful of getting in trouble, you look at Hunter B-15 and understand her character was a doctor in the past timeline, and it's sort of parallel to what she was in season 1. She was someone who just took out these timelines, like you guys are saying. And maybe what happens is, as you're pointing out, Alyssa, is that there's sort of an awakening in B-15 that happens, and it's so crazy to see, like, all that compassion, all that empathy that we saw from her in this season immediately gets justified by making her a doctor.
Yeah,
as to why she has such care and how her perspective has changed. Something definitely happened that had to have awoken her, and it could have been from what Sylvie did, but I don't know. I think has a lot to do with Hunter probably being someone who goes by the books and follows by the rules, but as things started to crumble, she was starting to ask questions, and that's the biggest thing. I think even a doctor, in a lot of ways, can kind of internalize and by asking questions and wanting to know more and more, really getting to the bottom of it. So.
But I also love, just for the writers on this show, how cheeky they are in the fact that she was helping a little girl who fell from the branch of a tree. It's just fantastic. Don't climb trees. And then there is a significance in the specific TVA Theater 25. It's the one where Loki was, kind of what you've just been describing there, Justin, of Hunter B-15 starting to wake up. This was where he was woken up to his life on the sacred timeline, where he saw his parents die and his himself die, and where Mobius took a chance on trusting him. And again, I think this is another subtle nod to what the whole episode is trying to say, and how Loki truly just wants those he's grown close to, like Mobius. So I think, because when you're looking at all the different places that he slips to, I think that place is absolutely significant for his character and for what he's gone through. But let's get going here to, I think, a lot of people's favorite character this season. In 1994, Pasadena, Obi, known as A.D. Doug, tries and fails to sell his own book at a bookstore. He returns to his warehouse, and Loki time slips in, and he immediately believes his story. Obi argues that Loki should theoretically be able to control his time slipping and end up back at the TVA, because the ability already seems to be evolving. Loki argues that the TVA is the last defense to stop Kang and what's coming, and Obi says that mission to save the TVA should be something Loki can control. Loki tries to deliberately time slip and fails. Obi tries different things, electric shocks, scaring him to activate it, but that doesn't work either. Obi eventually suggests that they get the group back together and track their collective temporal auras back to the TVA. The only problem is that Obi doesn't think that he can build a temp pad from scratch. It would take a lifetime, he says. That is until Loki gives him the TVA manual to help him, and then Loki time slips again. So we got to talk about Obi, or in this case, AD's warehouse. Justin, did you notice any similarities to repairs and advancements back at the TVA?
Yeah, I think they did that purposely, right?
Yeah.
And, the way he turns and reveals the whole space, it's like you can't help but immediately think of his place in the TVA headquarters. So that was definitely purposeful. But look at the technology that's around there. All that tech. It's 1994. It's all found technology. I think in a lot of ways, the introduction to his character and the space really solidifies. And as we go through the episode, we'll learn more. But he is the creator of the TVA, of that technology, right? Like it's part of the reason why. Like this, I think we're seeing his origin story, if anything, of how he kind of built a lot of this technology and did this thing. And the first indication of that is being really just introduced to his space. Like, I don't know, there's probably been various other indications throughout the season that he's had a larger part, just how much he knows and how much he's been involved. But I totally think that this is just another way to kind of center the idea that Obi is far more important to the TVA than any of us could really imagine.
Yeah, this is the head of the snake meeting the tail of the snake, right? And I think there's a fantastic article I recommend everyone go read on Marvel.com, written by Rachel Page, basically detailing the descriptions from production design lead Kazra Farahani and executive producer Kevin Wright, that talks about how this set, it is literally the exact same set from episode 1 of season 2, but stripped down to be a warehouse in Pasadena. And I love that. I love that it's the same set. I love that it's just as messy as Obi's space in the TVA. And one thing I noticed after watching this episode, 3 times, is that if you really look at it, it is literally a visual representation of the name of the episode, or at least, so if your back is towards the window facing out, which is the direction Obi's desk would face in the TVA, on your left, you have science. You can see all his work stuff, his science equipment. And then on the right, you have fiction, all his books, his ideation boards for his books, right? And so it's that level of detail in the production design that just, again, it's like Kazra and his team deserve like all the flowers possible for this scene alone, this space alone. And it's just so good. And of course, like Key and Obi, it's so good. When he's scaring him, when he just, and
he pulled out a pruning weapon, right? Like he sort of did, right? Like that you can't help but think about that, right?
Yeah.
When he does that. So again, just these subtle nods to to his character being so important to what the TVA would be. It's there.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just the idea too that, you know, when Loki, and obviously a lot of it has to do with the fact that Loki hands him the book. And I got to say, that scene, there's something that feels wrong about it. Do you know what I mean? Like we know it's going to benefit, but I think as genuinely authentic and maybe even gentle, we'll say, OB's character is, there's a bit of a sort of breaking the law, if you will, by giving him this TVA book, right? And just the way the song, the music kind of hits in that moment, it just, there's something that feels almost unnatural about it, right? Like it's not meant to be, right? So I don't know. There's a great way that, you know, Natalie Holt's music just kind of hits that mark of, it's not like like exciting. It was more like, this isn't right, and yet they're gonna do it. So I understand why, because they have to figure out this whole situation. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's keep going here. Loki ends up outside of Mobius/Dawn's house, where he's trying to rein in his two kids, Kevin and Sean. Loki approaches Dawn, and Dawn decides to sell him one of his personal jet skis because he doesn't need it. He doesn't need two of them after the loss of his wife. Loki starts telling Dawn about Mobius's real life, and he's initially skeptical until OB or AD shows up through a time door with a fully functioning TemPad, which took him 18 months to build. Well, 19 months because he had to take a break and then he lost his job and his wife left him. Don worries about leaving his boys behind, but eventually agrees to go with Loki. He's then able to convince both Hunter B-15 and Casey/Frank to join the cause as well, and they all regroup at Obi's warehouse. So something that's kind of been floating around on the internet a little bit is the idea, or the sort of the concept that there's these two boys, that are Mobius's sons. Do you think that's just a subtle nod to Loki's personal life, Alyssa, or could it be something more?
I think that Eric Voss said it the best. Kevin is seemingly a representation of Thor. He does what he wants, breaks everything. Sean appears,
burns things. Yeah,
and Sean appears kind of as Loki, a calmer, more responsible son who loves snakes.
Yeah.
So it's very on the nose. I think he's like seeing kind of a representation of himself, and I mean, I don't think that there's anything by mistake in this show. So it seems very on the nose. I mean, as for the wife, Dawn's wife.
Yeah, because he says that she's been gone for a while.
Yeah, says she's gone for a while. I think, honestly, because of the 2022 timeline, that she's been blipped.
Right.
I think that she's been gone for 4 years and she's not coming back.
For a decade.
A decade. What do you mean a decade?
Well, if it's 2022,
yeah.
And the attack on New York was, no, you're right.
The blip happened in 2018.
2018. Okay.
Yeah,
so it's still been a while.
I know.
Sorry,
it
not a
felt
decade.
like a decade. They
I'm getting
absolutely.
my Avengers movies mixed up.
It's like, what movie did you see? I think honestly, it's like I said, nothing is by accident. So this timeline falls through to kind of connect those dots. Now, I know, Justin, you have something to say, but I have a question, because earlier you guys said that the McDonald's kid could not possibly be Mobius. Why is that? Because he lives in a different state?
I mean, in my mind, I think that if he could be, sure. But the fact that space, and we'll get to it, is now gone.
Yeah.
Essentially, like, I don't think we're going back to Broxton.
Okay.
I don't. I mean, and if we do, maybe we do, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
My mind was going to like branch timeline, maybe in like, because time is a flat circle essentially in this series. Maybe Sylvie is like the parent of these two kids and blipped, and time has, gone in such a way where she produced these two sons with Mobius. He doesn't know who she is, and
that's interesting. I feel like there'd be more to set that up. Than,
I think there would be. Yeah,
I don't know.
but
Crazy, though.
I just
that's
realized
crazy.
they might also
That's
have
wild.
different names, but who cares?
Yeah.
Let's run this down to the press.
Well, I think, hey, I mean, Sean wants a puppy that could be Fenrir, right? It's, that's Loki's
Could
got
be.
a puppy at one point in his life, so maybe.
I like it.
I don't know.
We write the next season.
Yes, we're the writers now. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's it's a very interesting take for sure. It would be really wild to see all of that come together in a way, but I think the safe bet is that she blipped, and what seems interesting too is that like he doesn't imply that she like passed away or died. She just she
or
just
left
up and
them,
left.
Gone.
or-
Yeah.
She's just gone. She up and
Yeah,
she
that's
just
what he
up and left. He said, right? I think he hinted at that. But the idea that she could have just been doing something and then removed, it's a little wild. But also, you bring up the Battle of New York, Nate. Don't people know who Loki was, like, or recognize like his face and whatnot? So
In one timeline, absolutely.
right. So like
Right.
I think so again. Like, how does that fit into the whole dynamic of when we're jumping into 2022?
Right.
Has had the events of
Maybe not. Maybe there is
right?
no Loki in that timeline.
right?
Until
or maybe there's no
now.
Avengers or whatever.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. So
Just a jet ski salesman.
yeah, exactly.
I love it.
So,
It's the guy.
All right. Well, speaking of Sylvie, that still leaves Sylvie. She's back at McDonald's in the 80s. Her McDonald's bag, we see it start to disappear. And Loki arrives through a time door. Sylvie's life didn't get reset when the loom exploded, so she immediately invites Loki into her car because he's almost time slips away, and she takes him to a local bar. Loki argues that everyone should have the choice to stay with the TVA or return to their normal lives, and Sylvie disagrees. Loki says he wants his friends back because he doesn't know where he belongs without them. Sylvie takes a shot and tells him, "We're all writing our own stories now. Go write yours." So everyone else was sent back to their original lives. Both of you, why do you think Sylvie was sent back to the McDonald's in Broxton?
well, she has the ultimate temp pad.
Right. So
Right?
she just chose
So-
to go there.
Yeah, exactly. We
Okay.
see it at the end of the sequence when things become spaghettified. She just dips out.
Mhm.
But it makes sense that, again, going back to what I was saying about Loki, why he was left there in the TVA while everyone was gone. He was never meant to be there. He was not part of the people that they hired for the TVA, right? So he's just there. So I think that for both of them, their memories weren't reset and wiped because, they were never really intended to be a part of it. They're sort of the chaos that was added to that timeline to create these events. So they're very easy to be like just removed, right? And they don't need to be removed is from it because they're mentally not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the other thing to sort of consider is like her timeline was pruned, so she's not going back there. At this time, it doesn't exist anymore. And I think the other thing to sort of consider is it's what she wants, right? She asks Loki what he wants, and the answer to why everyone else ended up where they ended up was because they ended up where they
Needs to
want,
be.
what they love, right? We talked about Casey and being a natural thief and natural born thief and being incredibly resourceful and super smart and loves to read, which apparently Frank Morris was really smart in real life. And so, we've got Mobius at the jet ski store because he clearly loves selling jet ski. He loves his sons. He says he loves his sons, but also like he ignores them a bunch to be in his happy place at 9 to 5. And then Hunter B-15, who truly loves healing people. You've got Obi, who loved writing so much, but it seems as though maybe this is the only place. His warehouse is the only place that he could really truly explore his passion. And I think that's kind of the idea there. And he almost to the point where he inadvertently created this space in the TVA, like you were saying, Justin, to be the same. But then you've got Sylvie, who is happiest creating her own destiny, and obviously that's where she found a life. For the first time ever, was at this McDonald's in Broxton, Oklahoma. I think honestly, like the overall messaging that I'm getting, and this might be cheesy, but like I love time travel stuff that deals with love. I'm a huge Interstellar fan, so I think love is the answer beyond time, beyond space, beyond memory wipes, and it's the very thing that draws Loki to his friends. And also, I got legitimately choked up watching Loki come to the realization of what he actually wants. Like when he says he doesn't know where he belongs, Tom Hiddleston just hits. Like he just gives such a masterful performance, and it's such a perfect realization for a guy we've seen at this point literally go off the sacred timeline and then even to the end of time to be with the people he cares about, just to be with his friends. And I just think it was really, really beautiful. It was really touching, really heart-wrenching. And I never thought that we'd get to see Loki, this character that we met all the way back in 2011, like this. Is just unreal.
Well, it's interesting, too, because I think Loki's always been sort of he's a villain, but is he really a villain all the time, right? Like in the comics, I think there's cases to be made that he's a bit of an anti-hero. There's a sense of empathy and understanding to a certain degree. We saw it even in Avengers in the Battle of New York in 2012, understanding what he was doing and understanding his role in the whole thing. So his character to come to this realization that the people around him are who are the most important and they can move him through space and time is a beautiful message, right? And that's sort of what we're discovering through this episode, is that his relationship, his journey, his story with each of these characters is more important than anything any one timeline could ever give him. And I think that, to the point of what you're saying, Sylvie to end up in Broxton, that's all she's known. That's what she wanted. She wanted peace. She wanted serenity. She wanted that sense of belonging.
She wanted chicken McNuggets, dude. That's
she
what
wanted
she
chicken
wanted.
Keep talking about McDonald's. I'm gonna go there right after this.
But I think the idea that they so gently seed plant these elements of who people are and who these people are and why they're so important to that final line in this episode is great. It's really good. I think that's what this show has been so great at, is consistently knowing its message and how to convey the information. Even if you go back to the scenes with Obi or AD and Loki, and he's explaining all of these things and what he needs to do, it's so clear. You understand what Obi is saying to you. It's just saying to him, you understand what he needs to do and why it's so important. And I think the writing of this show has been so solid through every single episode. And even with something like this that feels so complex and we're moving around a lot, to ground it in a signature of like you said, love and who these people are to him, that's really clever writing, right?
Yeah. I also want to shout out Raphael Cassell as Brad, whose voice is heard in the sequence.
That's where
at
he
the
went.
Bar. Yeah, he's
in the video game machine.
He's in the video game machine. Oh no! But like you can see the Zaniac arcade machine, and then if you stay till the very end of the credits in this episode, you hear him say, "You died. Insert your coin, loser," which is just the best. And I think it's funny because Loki and Mobius are looking through the timelines to find Sylvie. You've got Marvel fans waiting to see an end credit scene, and we both just end up with Zaniac. It's just...
Yeah, it was disappointing.
So yeah.
But also fun and exciting.
Absolutely. All right, let's kind of get to the end here. Loki returns to Obi's warehouse, and in a defeated tone, he tells everyone, just go back home. Which I don't even know how they would necessarily all do. I guess they'd use the temp pad. Yeah. But Sylvie listens to a Velvet Underground record at her local record store as reality starts to bleed and disappear around her. At the last possible second, she uses a time door to escape and arrive at AD's warehouse. Sylvie admits that time is falling apart, and the team tries to find the temp pad just as Casey begins to disappear. OB, Hunter B-15 and Mobius all do the same. Sylvie admits that there's nowhere left to go, and she disappears. Loki begins to cry out at the time strips flowing around him. He lets out one last cry and somehow manages to time slip himself back in time. First a few seconds, and then about a minute or so. He tells the group that he was able to successfully control it, not by focusing on the when or the why, but by focusing on the who he wants to travel back to. He says he can rewrite the story, and then after focusing once more, he successfully time slips back to the moment just before Victor Timely walks out towards the loom. And that's the ending of this episode. And it brings us to our prediction segment, which we like to call "What's Your Low-Key Perspective?" So I want to maybe start with Alyssa, if that's okay. What are your thoughts on this ending, and what's your low-key perspective on what's going to happen next?
Ooh, I think offering my low-key perspective is, honestly, I have no idea. Because like I said, this entire series has totally changed the way that I think about like linear storytelling. I was telling Justin just a few weeks ago when I saw him that I thought that this series was going to be kind of like Kaleidoscope, where every episode was like a different point of time because he was time slipping.
Oh, okay.
And that was totally blown out the window.
Yeah.
So thinking about what's to happen next, I can only imagine, hopefully I'll cross my fingers that they can figure out a way to keep all of the timelines, but keep them in order, because then that way we would be able to continue to have things like, No Way Home, and continue to have like different iterations and variants of different characters. Maybe the old Avengers, who knows?
Right, yeah.
The episode as a whole, I think, was an incredible way to kind of get to know all of our team players. One of the parts at the end where they were all kind of saying like their last goodbye or like their last word was so gut-wrenching. Mobius, or what was his name? Gary? Dawn, just like screaming like, I gotta find my kids, and B-15's character saying like, is this the end? Like,
right,
my heart just kind of jumped out.
Yeah.
I am glad to see that they're kind of going the way of the Agents of Asgard comic. That was one of the first Loki comics that I read, and essentially it's about Loki trying to like handle his own story, get like in the driver's seat. Essentially he dies, or he kind of is reborn and like kills his old self that's evil. Think like the old Loki in the first season with like the yellow horns. And he comes back as a younger Loki and tries to figure out, hey, how can I change the story or my narrative to not be the bad guy? How can I use my mischief in a good way?
That's
so he
cool.
kind of turns
going off of that.
Yeah, he kind of turns into the master of stories.
Oh, okay.
Instead of like the god of mischief.
Yeah.
One point that was noted in the credits was B-15's like name card. Verity Willis, who was the name on that card, is a character in the Agents of Asgard, and essentially her power is that she can sense when someone is telling a lie.
Okay.
So kind of moving that into B-15's character and seeing her as someone who can see through Loki's bullshit.
Right. Or even that little girl, like, she's like,
yeah,
that's not
she
gonna
can tell.
stop you.
Exactly. Yeah, she can tell that her
That's
patient
cool.
is lying. I think that's an incredible way to tie that character in.
Yeah.
I've only read about her in that comic. She, like, her family has a power ring that can tell if you're lying, but when she was a kid, she swallowed it. So it kind of absorbed into her system, and now she has that power. So
that's how it works, kids.
You know, any way that there's a new power introduced into the MCU, I'm fine with it.
Just eat it.
Yeah, just eat it. Whatever.
That's awesome. Justin, how about yourself? What's your low-key perspective on what's going to happen next? And I mean, what are your thoughts on the ending as well?
Well, I got to say, like, I'm with you, Alyssa. I don't know what can happen next. I think, obviously, him bouncing back to the moments before Victor Timely steps out, that means, well, we still get a little more Victor Timely. Who knows? Maybe he inevitably still dies. But you know, there's a chance to stop because they know that this isn't going to work. You know, Brad's still on the loose through the TVA. I know that's where we left him in the last episode. So there, and where's Ravonna? I want to see that. So I think we're going to be bouncing back around in the next episode to kind of close some things off. But I do think it's going to be a closure. I don't think we're going to get a cliffhanger. I think it's going to kind of be a bit like a Mando, in that Mando season 3 ending, where it's like, this is where Loki is, and he's obviously going to be important, and he's just there. And I think he'll come back up, and it'll be more important. Or they do the thing where they make him the keeper of the TVA, right? And him and Sylvie
remains?
have to, maybe, maybe use that. I also would love to see just a sort of confirmation of who Obi's character is. Like, people have been saying that he is the original He Who Remains. He is a variant of Kang, to a certain degree, but which is, how they'll make that all kind of
People
stick.
just want to make him a bad guy because he's so lovable.
But I don't know. But again, I don't know if by doing it you necessarily make him a bad guy, right? Like, I think that, like, the reality is that they all have all the Kang variants have the knowledge. It's just how they use that knowledge, right? I don't think they're all probably.
No, I'm sure there are good Kang variants too, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the ones that are going to want to do things right. But as for the ending of the episode, this is emotionally heart-wrenching to see the people that he's been fighting for, that he's been trying to collect, if you will, to get the band back together. Yeah. The band of the timeline too.
When he's grabbing at the different strings,
exactly.
It's like, oh my gosh.
But then he's reliving his moments, what each of them have given to him. What each of them have opened up inside of him to make him the person that he is now. He's reliving those memories, and that's what snaps him into understanding the Who. And that's what's so beautiful about this ending. When you watch it and you see all these subtle references, and it comes to the end, like, you already knew the ending of that line, right, before he said it, and you realize that everything in the episode influenced getting us to this point. So it's just really great writing. Watching it obviously a second time, you even start to really pull through how they really hint at how why these characters are so important to Loki, and beyond everything else. And it was a really good ending. This is what makes great television in my mind.
Well, my Loki perspective, Alyssa, I saw you were trying to be like, what's your Loki perspective?
Yeah.
My Loki perspective is a lot of what I said on last week's recap, but I updated it with the context we have now. So they'll all need to work together to fix the break in the loop that is the ongoing cycle of the TVA restarting over and over and over again. I think they have to do another time heist similar to what happened in Avengers Endgame, but last week I said that Loki would need to steal the time stone from Casey's desk in order to pull off this time heist. Obviously, he doesn't need to do that anymore. He's mastered his ability. He doesn't need that specific stone. Maybe he could use some of the other stones. I don't know. I'm still going to say that they don't just fix the loop and reset it back to what it was. I think they find a way to fix it for good. I think Ravonna ends up potentially trapped at the end of time to be set up as the She Who Remains. I think maybe there might be a moment where Loki at the very end recruits her because they both want the same thing. She wants revenge, probably, against Kang and these variants and what have you. And I think that Hunter B-15 takes over the TVA to correct things, to do things the right way. Casey works with Obi to become his apprentice and write the new TVA guidebook or handbook. And I think Mobius will actually choose to go back to his life to be with his sons in 2022. And then lastly, I think Loki is going to find Sylvie a new life where she can choose to do whatever she wants. Like, at first she's gonna want to be stay with it, but he's gonna maybe do almost like an Irish goodbye situation where he leaves her in a specific timeline, and then he takes the Master Tempad from her or something like that. And it's not done in a mean way or a bad way. She understands this was the right choice and this is what she wanted to. And then I really do think that Loki and maybe Ravonna almost become the next Nick Fury, right? Assembling a team of heroes across time to fight against the oncoming Kang War.
I would be obsessed with that.
Right?
To
How
just
sick
jump
would
into
that be?
Secret Wars? Don't
Like-
test me.
Well, because
Oh.
we think about how long it takes for these things to show up again, right? And Justin, like you're saying, like you think like, okay, this is where we're gonna leave Loki. This is where he is, and then we're gonna go off and explore Echo, and we're gonna do a bunch of other things, and because those movies are gonna take a long time to get here. The writer's strike and the actor's strike, obviously things are gonna take even longer because of these studios not doing the right thing, and so because of that, I think that I don't think we're unfortunately going to see Loki for a really long time unless we get a title card at the end that says Loki will return for season 3.
Mhm.
I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you guys think we're going to get a season 3?
I think
I
without a
hope
doubt
so.
we'll get a season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I like the theory about what you're saying there about it kind of goes off of what I was saying, that I think he's going to run the TVA, and to your point, I like the added caveat that he's going to lead sort of a new TVA to battle the oncoming threat, because I think if anything that
That's
they're
still
going to
his
do,
goal.
that's still his goal. I don't think they're going to fix the loom and the broken loop. I think they're just going to patch it, and they're going to figure out, but they need to get order and structure back in place, and they need to start by finding these variants. And maybe Victor Timely sticks around. Maybe Victor Timely is part of the TVA and works with Loki, and that could be the good Kang variant that actually does it. Because I don't know, like I'm pretty sure Victor Timely might be a stage name, more or less.
Yeah.
Because there might be
Does he come out and say like my real name's Nathaniel or something like that?
Nathaniel Richard, like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, does he say that eventually, or is that who he is?
He looks at the camera and he's like, just like you, Nate. And I'm like, what? And then I disappear into spaghettification.
Oh my god.
Spaghettification. But yeah, I think that's great. There's a lot there though, Nate, that you're asking for this episode to kind of deliver. I feel like you're throwing a lot of darts at the board, and it's like if one of them,
wall,
exactly,
right? Some noodles
Yeah.
will stick.
maybe
Absolutely.
something will stick, and then it won't slide down. I feel like there's going to be a couple noodles on the wall there, because you
Yeah.
got some stuff that I think
Let's
I'm
go.
with you on.
And then Mephisto
Yes,
shows
Alyssa.
up. No, I think that it's honestly a shoo-in for season 3. Like, more than just a great Marvel series, like it's just a good sci-fi series. I think it's just got so many great elements to it, and it doesn't really exist outside of the TVA bubble. If you really think about it, like you don't have to know that much about the series. You know that Loki is kind of a bad guy at the beginning, and it all lives within this Chronopolis bubble, potentially. Who knows? Chronopolis? You guys know about Chronopolis? Listeners know about Chronopolis. It's all good.
Chronopolis? No, I actually remind me.
Okay, so Chronopolis is essentially like the city that Kang creates in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
And every time we see the TVA, there's like a bunch of tall, kind of like CN Tower shaped buildings in the background,
They're all
and
Toronto.
things zooming across.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Chronopolis, Toronto, in the quantum realm. No, it's a place where he lives and is the king, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's a very integral part of the Nathaniel Richards, Victor Timely story.
Interesting.
I think we'll definitely.
So he's closer than we think.
Well, for sure, but I think he's also like if it is Chronopolis, we may not get that confirmation until Kang Dynasty,
Yeah.
right? And I think that would be the aha, like, oh my god, the entire time we've been spending with the TVA has actually been on Chronopolis. Like, that'd be wild to think, right? So it's definitely very possible for it to be more important and integral of a location, because there's no, like, not all of it's the TVA, but we've been spending all of our time in the TVA like building,
Right.
more or less.
There's
right? Like,
more
at least,
outside of it.
At least in my mind, like, obviously there's more outside of it. We see windows and ships and stuff
But is
like
that
that.
just
Like,
also the TVA?
but see, that's the thing. We don't know
don't know.
any
Who
of that, right?
knows?
So if that is just the TVA section of Chronopolis, or is that Chronopolis that we're seeing outside of the TVA, they haven't given any sort of distinct definition to what it is. But yeah, that would be interesting. I think there's a lot of potential too with whatever happens here for it to go further in a different way with Deadpool. 3. I think that's going to really lean into a lot of the events here, or these events are going to help set up indirectly, though. Like, we'll just have the understanding of it, because even in the way that Deadpool 3 ends with him traveling through time, like fixing timelines, you know what I mean? Like, you know, if you add that into Deadpool 3 and, you know, the TVA and all of what he's doing there, it kind of adds another layer and makes it kind of, it was always meant to be that that this timeline would end up there, right?
Oh, man, Casey and Obi talking to Deadpool and Wolverine would be phenomenal. But listen, we could speculate and share our fandoms that'll never come true unless Mephisto says so, all night and all day. But let's get to our overall thoughts and final score, which for this episode we're going to be rating on a scale of 1 to 5 time slips. And Alyssa, I will have you go first.
All right. I'm going to give this episode a 4.2 time slips out of 5.
All right.
Just because the story's complicated, the number's complicated. It's just all fits together so nicely.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed kind of seeing peering into the like lives of these characters that we've grown to love. I love how smart the writing is and how it all kind of makes sense, even looking back to previous seasons, like the Time Theater 25 happening in episode 5 of season 2.
Oh wow,
you know, there's so many things that are thought so thoroughly out that seeing it all come together is really fascinating. I always have super high expectations for Marvel projects, so if it's not like, oh my God, what happened? It's so crazy, then I don't usually give something a 5, but I can stick happily with my 4.2. And before we end, I just want to say one more thing, because I didn't get to be a part of it. Skrull Sacred.
Well, thank you for bringing that unfortunate
I'm a Skrull, everybody.
Thing.
Surprise.
That's it. That's the big surprise. This episode's going to get a 5 out of 5. Awesome. Justin, what is your final score and thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, like I loved this episode. I think it's such a great penultimate setting up for the finale. It sort of feels like a bit of a bottleneck episode because it's a side mission quest that had such emotional weight and satisfaction to Loki and the characters around him and why they're important to him. And as we were talking about through our discussion and as I was mentioning, it's the idea of really cementing why this episode focused on these characters, who they are and who they are to Loki, to really just hit home that, as you were pointing out, love, sincerity, care, the things that have in many ways changed the course of this Loki variant to be an entirely different version of himself. And I think Alyssa's right. Like, this is we're seeing the making of the god of stories rather than the god of mischief, and maybe leaning into how time slipping allows him to do this and what his next journey is with these powers. Is it temporary? We don't know, right? Like, I think he's going to have these hopefully for the foreseeable future, and it doesn't just go away by the end of the season. But to incorporate the time slipping as a means as a means for him to be able to travel to those who he wants to see, there's a lot of opportunity to do some really cool stuff in the future. Just saying. Anyways, so with that said, I like I said, this series has been so consistent, and this episode feels like such a great, satisfactory and sort of gratifying episode for everything that's come before it. And there's so much intrigue, and the emotional dimension is just is on full display here, and it adds just so much more depth. So yeah, I'm giving this a 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. What was it?
Time slips.
Yeah, I think this is like.
Hold on, Justin.
peak.
Time slip back so you can correct yourself.
Yeah.
Time slip back. Yeah.
Spaghetti.
Yeah, so I'm going to give this episode a 5 out of 5 time slips.
Oh, nailed
100%.
it.
This is peak. This is peak Loki writing. This is peak Marvel. This is why you watch this episode and you understand, like, while it's not all great stuff, and there's probably a real sense of quantity over quality that's going on at the MCU, this is definitely quality.
Yeah.
This is what we want, and just that attention. It doesn't all need to be Loki. It just needs to be that attention, that thoughtfulness, that stuff that connects back to an audience and says, this is why you're watching this show. And that is what this episode does really, really well. So yeah, 5 out of 5 time slips.
Very cool. Alyssa, before I go,
sorry, I time slipped also.
Before I mention my final score, something popped into your brain. I saw a light bulb go off when Justin mentioned.
For those who don't have a visual of our conversation, so he just, I had a thought, and Justin was talking about how there's so much possibility with this new time slipping power that he has. I was just thinking, like, what if because he can slip into different places and different times, what if he just finds his way back to our main timeline so that Thor can have his brother and he's not alone?
It's going to happen. We're going to get it.
I can't believe I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I think that's probably where the show will end up and where it'll end.
After season 3, maybe.
I will cry real tears.
Oh, my gosh. Are you kidding me?
I think
he meets love.
Oh,
like he meets the little girl. Like, oh, come on.
That would be pretty wild, actually.
He's her
that would
uncle.
Be pretty wild.
Oh!
Yeah. That'd be pretty wild. But like that would be a great way to close out this series. But yeah, like I could see him, wanting to see his mother, right? Or even going back like you said, maybe going to see Thor and apologizing, and then going back to his TVA business. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could see something like that sort of, happens in a way. So
let's just get Tom Hiddleston to be the constant of everything MCU going forward. This episode of Loki was fantastic. I absolutely adored the looks at the lives of all the other characters and the message that through it all, Loki just wants to be with his friends. We very much now have a Loki who is similar to the one at the end of his life on the sacred timeline, that one that was killed and sacrificed himself, and I absolutely love that he's sort of caught up in that way. I think I would have liked a little more time with the other characters, learning about their histories, but the show is called Loki, and so like you're saying, Justin, like keeping the focus on him and his development through the episode, I think is ultimately the right call, even though I want to see Dawn on a jet ski a little more. I think it's really well paced, and the episode it doesn't move the overall story forward. It gives us a greater look at the origins of these characters that we've gotten to know within the TVA, and it helps establish what Loki wants. And I think it's a prime example of the writers trying to say, hey, we gave you a crazy, massive cliffhanger at the end of last week's episode. And now we're giving you something that's written really, really well and doesn't push that forward in any way. It's them trying to say, listen, Marvel fans, it's okay if we give you something that's written really, really well that you're going to love. It doesn't need to be this phase-moving story. It doesn't need to be something that pushes the overall story forward.
In a lot of ways, what you've described is very similar to the penultimate episode from WandaVision.
Yeah. Where
we kind of go through her journey as well. And, they give you that cliffhanger in episode 8, and then 9 comes, and it's just like, it's so focused on that, on her story and on her journey.
Yeah. They've done it before. They've done it here. And I think if we let them, if as fans, we can all just be okay with some of the fallbacks, some of the setbacks, I think that they'll continue to do it again. And I'm hoping that's the case with Echo. We get to understand Loki's motivations at the deepest level. And I really enjoyed the moment that he realizes what he wants, and that heart-wrenching performance from Tom Hiddleston. Next week is going to be crazy. I can't wait to see how it all wraps up, knowing what Loki is now capable of. The music, the production design, obviously we've said it time and time and time again. This time it was off the charts. Just fantastic. The imagery of the various parts of the world and these things, these characters disappearing through time is something that will stay with me, like when I first saw, our loved characters get snapped away. I'm giving this episode of Loki a very solid 4.5 out of 5 time slips. But that is it for this episode. Alyssa, before we wrap things up, could you let our lovely listeners, I know you mentioned at the top of the show, let our lovely listeners know how they can keep up with you and hear your lovely voice yet again?
Absolutely.
In the future.
Yeah. In the future and in the past.
Whoa.
I am, like I said, a streamer on Twitch, just like my friend here, Nate Plays Games. You can find me at twitch.tv/itsyourgirl Alyssa or on Instagram at itsawissa. Have a good time. In January, I'll be soft relaunching as a, variety streamer, talking about Marvel and playing video games and maybe even playing our new favorite game, Disney Lorcana.
Oh, yeah. We've been just so deep in Lorcana.
I see your dragon shields right back there too. I was like, what color is that?
Yes.
That's fun.
Yeah, they're we've got them. I think it's been such a fun time with that card game, and yeah, if you want to learn about it, definitely check out her streams and also check out her photography. You do some photography as well, and so you might want to get some beautiful Christmas photos done, holiday photos done.
If you're in the GTA, a ballast photo, hit me up. I think the links will be in the description.
They will. All these links will be in the description.
Appreciate you, my dog.
Yeah, because people might want to have a moment in time captured forever.
Amazing.
That should be the new. We'll make it a new thing.
Incredible.
But that is it for this week's Watch Club for Loki Season 2, Episode 5. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts or your predictions on the shows we cover in Watch Club, well, let me just get Justin to time slip into your ears so he can let you know how you can reach us across time.
Well, they can reach us. Well, first off, time slipping into someone's ear sounds like the sounds are just
and the
horrifying,
spaghetti.
So,
not good.
Yeah,
not good.
I apologize for how awkward that must have been. But they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or they can reach out to us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at GeekcentricYT, and on Instagram at wearegeekcentric. I'm naturally getting to the place where I say
You're just gonna call it X.
X.
Oh no.
They referred to it as X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm going to just keep going with that.
All right.
Formerly Twitter.
Keep in mind, we have a ton of other episodes covering our recent releases with spoiler-free reviews for the Netflix series Blue Eye Samurai. Go check that out. Listen to the review because it'll get you hyped to watch that show. It is absolutely stellar animation. More stellar animation that we talked about, Invincible Season 2, Part 1. We also have a spoiler-free review for David Fincher's The Killer, Goosebumps Episodes 1 to 5, The Creator, and Expendables 4. We also have a ton of interviews out now, like our most recent interviews with the creative team behind Loki. Justin actually had the chance to speak with Dan DeLeo, who directed Episode 2, Kazra Farahani, who I name-dropped earlier in the episode, who directed Episode 3, and he's the lead of production design on the show, as well as Christine Wada, who was the mastermind behind the excellent costumes on the show. He chats with all of them about their individual journeys within production, as well as specifically the collaboration that goes into crafting Loki Season 2. So be sure to check out those interviews and all of our interviews either here on your podcast service of choice and over on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. We've got a Discord open so you can talk to us about the show directly. That link, if you'd like to join, will be in the description below. We're going to continue this Watch Club for Episode 6 later this week with the finale, where we'll have yet another special guest joining us from another branched timeline. And lastly, but certainly not least, we would love to become Rotten Tomatoes certified. So a fresh 5-star review would go a long way on Apple Podcasts, if you don't mind. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you think of the podcast and especially these Watch Clubs. Alyssa, Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this Watch Club. And as we say,
for all time, always.